Very good evening. You're tuned into the very latest on headlines today, and we're going to cut across directly to the Sabarmati Ashram in Ahmedabad. It's a visit that India will hope will mark a new chapter in Sino-India ties. Chinese President Xi Jingping has arrived in India on a three-day visit. He came today at 2:30 p.m. Now, Jinping arrived at the Ahmedabad airport a little post 2:30 and was treated to a red carpet welcome by Gujarat Governor O.P. Kohli and the Chief Minister of the state, Anandiben Patel. The Chinese president was accompanied by his wife Peng Liyuan. An hour later, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was welcoming the two at a city hotel where a series of engagements were planned, where they signed an important, they signed in fact 3 MOUs. Now this is what how the day transpired. We're going to give you 5 pictures which pretty much encapsulate what the day today was. Well, this is when at 2:30 p.m, a little after that, the Chinese President Jinping and his wife touched down in Ahmedabad. After initial talks, the two have signed 3 MOUs. The agreement to develop industrial parks was signed between China Development Bank and Gujarat governments. The other 2 MOUs were related to service sectors. Now, these 3 MOUs will facilitate exchange of ideas and service between Gujarat and China. Now, President Xi is the first important Asian head of state to visit India since the new Narendra Modi government was sworn into office in May this year. China is expected to commit investments worth $6.5 to set up industrial parks in India and sign purchase agreements of over $3 billion with domestic companies. In addition, about 16 documents are likely to be signed in areas such as trade and economic development, drug administration and cooperation.
Was in the year 2005 when the guiding principles for the conduct of relations to engage in serious negotiations for the settlement of the border, or the demarcation of the border, and to maintain peace and tranquility on India-China borders and along the LOC was signed when the then Chinese Prime Minister Wen Jiabao had come to India for the state-level visit and his summit talks with the Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. Why we feel that there is a need to underscore this in advance, so that through you, the people of India are kept fully informed, and the word of caution for the drum beaters and the propagandists of the Prime Minister and the BJP, that they should stop saying repeatedly that this is happening for the first time in India.
Well, if day 1 of the 3-day visit belonged to Gujarat, then day 2 and 3 will belong to the national capital. What's on the table in terms of business and talks? I'm going to cut across to our deputy editor, Shiv Arur, who's in the studio with me. It's over to you, Shiv.
Well, after a very calm first day when the President of China actually arrived, day 2 is going to be getting down to the real business. We here on Headlines today have an inside track of the 5 big things that we're going to see actually happen from the Indian side. 1, a candid conversation on Pakistan. Now, this hasn't really happened before, but we're told by our sources that India plans to raise this in a very serious manner with China. Point number 2, it's going to focus on the rise of Islamist extremism in Pakistan and highlight to the Chinese president and delegation that the rise of Islamic fundamentalism in that country is a threat both to India as well as China, and China cannot afford to ignore it anymore. Point number 3, border discussions need to move beyond confidence-building measures is a point that's going to be made very, very strongly by Prime Minister Modi when he sits down to talk across the table with the Chinese president tomorrow. Point number 4, there needs to be a new direction to the border mechanism. We've seen transgressions over and over again on the line of actual control, differing perceptions, but how long can that actually go on? It needs a new direction. That is something that's going to also come up for discussion. And finally, point number 5, and this centers around the priority as far as China is concerned, as far as influence and economic activity is concerned. India is going to suggest actually carving out islands of Chinese investment to make sure that there are places in India that attract specific Chinese investment to build up that level of the partnership as well.
All right, we're going to cut across to Shiv in just 2 minutes, but to give our views on what transpired through the day. Post the photo ops and trade packs, the Chinese President Narendra Modi and other dignitaries visited the Sabarmati ashram. That's where they still are, and dinner is being served as we speak. Now, Xi Jingping is the first Chinese dignitary to ever visit the Gandhi ashram. Both leaders spent almost about 20 minutes at the ashram paying their respect to Mahatma Gandhi. Prime Minister Modi gifted a garland to the Chinese President. The Chinese President also enjoyed traditional dances being performed. The Chinese First Lady Peng Luan is also present at the Sabarmati river front. Jinping will attend a private dinner hosted by the Indian Prime Minister in a luxury tent on the Sabarmati waterfront. We're going to get you those live visuals because as we speak, dinner is being served. I'd like to cut across to Gaurav Sawant, who has the entire menu with him. Gaurav, what a spectacular, well-constructed evening it's been.
Hello, mic check one.
All right, we seem to be having an audio problem with Gaurav.
His evening in Gujarat. 1, 2, 3.
Gaurav, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Loud and clear, Preeti. And this is India rolling out the red carpet for the Chinese President and the Chinese First Lady, giving them an evening they will remember. Now, apart from the traditional cultural dances and songs of Gujarat, it's the traditional Gujarati thali for the Chinese President to sweeten his mood before the border negotiations, the border talks start tomorrow, before hard-nosed negotiations on investment, trade and economy start tomorrow. Why Gujarat? One, it's not just the Gujarati Asmita. You know, when the West, in a way, had shunned Narendra Modi as Chief Minister of Gujarat, it was the East that rolled out the red carpet for him, including China and Japan. And this is Gujarat saying, we've developed fast. Take a look at what we've done. Take a look at what I did as Chief Minister of Gujarat and see how I replicate it in the rest of the country. Your money is safe in India. That's the message that India sends out to China from Gujarat. Two aspects that are going to be significant tomorrow, apart from culture, trade, negotiations and all. One is trade and investment, and the other is how do you take this boundary dispute, the world's longest boundary dispute from Arunachal Pradesh in the east to Ladakh in the north. How do you settle it? How do you move forward? As Shiv was pointing out, move beyond confidence building measures. Now look for permanent solutions. Let's have a give and take mechanism so that we move forward. And then if 21st century has to be Asia's century, then India and China need to operate together. India and China need to work together. It's no longer the West century. The world is looking to Asia for solutions, and if the two biggest countries are fighting, they cannot provide solutions.
You know, Gaurav, stay on with us. We're going to come right back to you. Shiv Varur, our deputy editor, is also in the studio with me. You know, Shiv, you know, these beautiful pictures of Bonhomie, you know, all we're witnessing through Sabarmati, the riverfront and what transpired through the day, would want us, you know, many to believe that everything is absolutely fine. But you and I both know the border issues that have persisted for over decades between India and China. Currently, as we speak, one raging on in Demchok in Jammu and Kashmir.
That's right. And in fact, as we speak, a low-level flag meeting has also been held by delegations on both sides in the Demchok area. You know, it's you know, in the midst of all this sort of splendor and activity that we're seeing in Ahmedabad, Preeti, it's very easy actually to forget because of the spectacle that there are very serious contentious issues, as Gaurav pointed out as well, you know, through the day. And let's also remember that it isn't just the border issue. There are border disputes. China claims a large part of Indian territory. There are visa issues. There are lots of contentious you know, issues and frictions as far as even the business relationship is concerned, as far as business visas are concerned, about access to markets is concerned. So, you know, let's make no mistake. You know, it's all very well to be, you know, persuaded and sort of swept away by the visual spectacle, the sort of bonhomie that you see in these pictures that we've had through the day. And I'm not belittling these images. It goes a great distance in sort of solidifying any kind of individual chemistry between two very powerful leaders in Asia, Preeti. But
yes,
the simple matter is, it's going to be down to business. You know, today was a bit of fun and games, a little bit of work and play. But tomorrow it's going to be down to the brass tacks, as Gaurav, you know, very rightly put it, because a large part of the discussions are going to be strategic in nature, about the border mechanism, how to take things, you know, forward. And as we've just, you know, given our viewers here on Headlines today, we've got an inside track of the 5 big things that India is likely to convey. And India is not likely to mince any words. That's the good thing we've got, Preeti. They're going to raise Pakistan Pakistan. They're going to raise Islamist fundamentalism in that country and try and convince China that, you know, this is a relationship that needs to head in a new direction. We've let it sort of fester and meander for too long. If we are the two, you know, most powerful countries in Asia, we need to start looking at each other as equal partners. But can China ever do that is the big question.
You know, and that's what I want to go across to Gaurav Sawant, the Strategic Affairs Editor, for. You know, Gaurav, history stands testimony that India always needs to approach, even diplomatically, where China is concerned, at caution. So the question I want to ask you is, there are many political analysts, there are many strategic defense analysts who are saying that all that is being seen right now in Ahmedabad is a smoke screen. There are issues which are long-standing, which are unresolved, and until and unless those get sorted, all of this tantamounts to absolutely nothing.
My sources in the government tell me nothing will be brushed under the carpet. In fact, it will be emphatically taken up with China, and it will be conveyed to China that it is in China's national interest and India's national interest to sort out these issues to move forward if 21st century has to be Asia's century. At the same time, India is also taking effective countermeasures should China not be, if China doesn't play ball. As far as the string of pearls is concerned, China investing all along this region, India is going to counter it. India is taking effective countermeasures, a close friendship with Japan, a close equation with Australia, all of that, engaging with Vietnam, all of that is part of this. Stapled visas, as Shiv was pointing out, is an important issue. Pakistan-sponsored terror. China itself is suffering Pakistan-sponsored terror. So all of that will be taken up. And once again, the message being conveyed is, if the world has to look to India and China for solutions, India and China cannot be having problems. We have to sort out the problems and move forward. It will not happen tomorrow, but it is hoped that at least the first step will be taken for a quick solution.
Even though there's wall-to-wall paper coverage in India on President Jinping's visit, not quite as much is happening in China. The visit of the Chinese president being covered as remotely a low-key visit. So is India expecting too much out of this visit? My colleague Shivaru is standing by, getting us the latest.
But everything needs to be put into perspective. There's camaraderie, there's body language, there's bonhomie in the images you see. But could some of these expectations actually be pretty unrealistic? Here's a 5-point reality check on the relationship between India and China. Number one, China's interest is only trade and influence. Could they be pushed and persuaded to actually climb down as far as the strategic standoff with India is concerned? Point number two, will China ever see India as an equal partner and equal power in Asia? So far, they've shown absolutely no inclination to actually do that. So whether it's trade talks or territorial disputes, China will only negotiate from a position of power, and that's not good for India. Point number three, a fair discussion on territorial disputes. Can that ever happen by a country that does not see India as an equal partner? That's not good for India, because territorial disputes continue to be thorns in the side of a more progressive relationship. Point number four, the end of transgressions across the border. In the near term, that appears to be a large expectation to have, considering that in just the last 12 months, there have been more than 350 transgressions across the line of actual control. And finally, will China actually align itself with India and neglect Pakistan? It has a huge nexus as far as nuclear technology, missile technology and trade with Pakistan. It supplies them with weapons. But can India convince China to leave Pakistan and look at India as a more meaningful partner in the Asian equation? That appears to be an unrealistic expectation, at least at this time.